Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero.
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and Putin threatens to use all means to stop Polish aggression as troops moved to the border. We actually talked about this when Poland is essentially going to shore up their Belarus side as well. They have already put dragon's teeth on their borders with Russia, and now they're actually shoring up their other borders. They're loading up with troops. There are Marfoogle family members that are in the military that, of course, have talked about the 101st Air Battalion. I'm saying that wrong, and I was this right before the show. They said that not only they are there, that there are other troops being moved in from NATO. They, of course, added 300,000 troops to Europe in general, and they say that there's actually a whole lot more. Now, they've just about a week and a half ago, they ended up doing this reservist bill for 3,000 other reservists, but there's something definitely going down right now. Right now, they are setting this up for some sort of big kind of headbutting system here. So it says that Vladimir Putin warned Poland that any attack on Belarus would be considered an attack on Russia, sending tensions to the region soaring. It says the comments came after Poland decided to reinforce its eastern border with Belarus after Wagner Group fighters moved into the country. Putin, however, characterized the decision as a play by Poland to annex parts of Belarus, a claim that Warsaw has dismissed. It is well known that they also dream of the Belarusian lands, he said, without providing evidence for the claim. The Russian president continued, but as far as Belarus is concerned, it is part of the Union state with Russia. Unleashing aggression against Belarus will mean aggression against the Russian Federation. We will respond to this with all the means at our disposal, essentially threatening Poland if they do something to them. Now, Belarus, just a few weeks ago, actually, it was probably more like a month and a week ago, they actually said that they were the only way that they would get involved in any of this conflict is if they were attacked. So are they setting up for a Fantastic Freddy? Is Russia actually telling the truth? Is Poland going to do something and make it look like they did it in defense? Something is possibly down the road here. So we don't know what's actually going on here. It is my opinion that World War III is coming. It's not the end of the world, and it is most definitely not going to be what we think it's going to be, and it's already begun. That it's not going to be nukes flying across the planet. It's more going to be a constant thing, or probably a very long and drawn-out thing for the military-industrial complex to make a lot of money. And real people will be affected. I think that we very well could be affected here in the United States, and Europe will definitely be affected with some sort of event happening, possibly a cyber event, something like that. Again, I'm open to hear all of your opinions on that as well. But right now, if you look at what's happening, you see patterns. If you followed my show and you followed all of the different pieces that have been put out by mainstream media over the last 6 years, you start to see a pattern in what is reported versus what ends up actually happening. And then after so long, you start realizing that there is some truth in there, or not even truth. It's more like they spin whatever they can into a story, and then you start seeing what parts of their spun story end up becoming true. I think that they're definitely setting up for something, that this isn't going to go just backwards all of a sudden, and then everything returns to normal. After CV and the shutdown of the world for 4 or 5 months, I'm pretty sure most people realized that something had to change, something was going to change, and that they are doing something massive. So again, it said the rhetoric prompted Germany to publicly commit to defending its NATO ally, with Berlin's defense minister guaranteeing support should Poland's eastern flank be attacked. So look at what they're setting up here, at least in our minds. It says, he said, where the Polish partners need support, they will receive it. They are NATO partners and reliable NATO allies, so we can confidently say that we are prepared. Poland's defense ministry also said that we are preparing for, quote, various scenarios as Wagner mercenaries loomed on the NATO border. Something is in the works, and if they are all high-fiving behind closed doors, that's even more of something to be worried about, especially right now with what is being teed up. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show. We actually have a lot to go over here. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie. This ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so if you've never been here before, make sure to go over to our website, marfooglenews.com, and you look for today's thumbnail. Once you see it, you can click on it, and you can get a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to talk about here today. Once you find it, click it. Deadly bacteria escaped. Airmen resigning. Russia targets Poland, and everything is burning. SHTF. You'll find a full source list for everything we will be talking about, plus a whole lot more. Once you get to the overflow and web content, that will bring up all of the extra, all of the stuff that you can't basically talk about at a bar. So the great stuff down there, make sure to utilize it. It also has an update about the kidnapped Texas teen and all sorts of other great stuff we'll talk about at the very end. Let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So first of all, thank you. And if you guys do a roll call real quick, it looks like it's kind of awesome, though. Everybody does a roll call, whether I say it or not. Where are you from and are you new? Say hi, and then, of course, if you can, greet anybody that's new in chat. Looks like there's at least 1,000 plus down there, so thank you guys for making it to the show. And then, of course, all of our friends over on DLive and all of our friends on Rumble. I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for showing up. And then remember, you can also go over to marfooglenews.com/friends and find any one of our great mods. Our mods are actually doing a great job down there keeping the peace. And remember, we try not to talk badly about any other creator, whether it is a true statement or not. Basically, the general rule is that we try to keep everything positive and to not talk about fellow creators. I guess I have had many, things said about myself that I knew wasn't true. If somebody says something about you, you kind of know if it's true or not. And I guess I wouldn't say something about another creator unless I knew it 100% for sure. But in general, we should all be pushing each other up. We have much bigger fish to fry above us, and there are just constant problems running into this niche and everybody who is trying to tell their truth, I guess. And then over 1,000 air reservists threaten to stop serving as Israel's political crisis grows. Dex, do you want to cover this one? They're essentially saying that they're gonna bounce out.
Yeah, they're bouncing out. So they put together a joint letter, and they released it today, Friday, and it's basically 1,142 Air Force reservists in Israel, 235 fighter pilots, 98 transport plane pilots, 89 helicopter pilots, and 173 drone operators said they would not serve if the government proceeds with its plan to reduce the ways in which their Supreme Court can overrule the government. As we've talked about, there's been numerous protests over this. They seem to flare up when decision times are being made, or that it's about to be, moved from one, from one set of opinions to the next before it becomes, I guess, potentially law there. This is something that their current leadership is trying to push through, Netanyahu. So, um, but yeah, this is, we've seen the people in the streets, we've seen the people block the interstates, we've seen a lot of different types of activity, and now what we're seeing is a military, um, not doing a coup, but literally saying, "Hey, we're just going to walk out. Like we're done. We're not going to serve if you're going to do this."
And as far as it's kind of the opposite in China. They're trying to find airmen. They're so desperate they're trying to pay even ex-U.S. military airmen to go fly for them and to go fly on their new carriers. So these guys have 1,000 or 1,100 leaving. I wonder if China is going to try to grab them up. And then Seoul says North Korean nuclear attack would mean end of regime. So South Korea is actually saying that if North Korea does any kind of nuclear attack, that it would be the end of Kim Jong-un. But this isn't something that's new. Like everybody thinks this. If North Korea ever fired a nuke, it would basically be like offing themselves, because it's how would they survive something like that? Seoul said North Korea Friday that that using its nukes would mean the, quote, end of Kim Jong-un's regime after Pyongyang threatened nuclear retaliation over growing U.S. military deployments on the peninsula. Relations between the two Koreas are at one of their lowest points ever, with the North ramping up weapons testing as Seoul and Washington boost military cooperation. Now, by themselves, North Korea, it's like you would think that, North Korea has been completely cut off from the rest of the world for so long. You would think that they wouldn't have the ability after all of these years since their own internal war ended, that they would still be able to really do much. But they have essentially earned all their money on the black market, and they have worked with our adversaries like China and Russia, and we actually don't know all the stuff they have. People, of course, didn't believe it at first that they had any kind of ballistic missile. Then they didn't believe that they had EMPs. Then they didn't believe that they had the fractional orbital bombardment system. They didn't believe that they had satellites. So they keep getting this stuff. I don't know if we believe what they're saying, at least intelligence agencies, which again, often, intelligence and agencies, usually there's no intelligence there. But as far as this goes, it's like, what if they did, instead of nukes, if they did try to do a traditional hot war with, say, South Korea or something like that? What would that trigger? Well, it seems like to me it's more of a global thing. It's less about just them in South Korea. It's them and the U.S. It's them in Europe. It's this whole situation that is kind of spiraling out of control. They're working very closely with Russia. They're working very closely with China. So, and we don't even know if Kim Jong is still alive. With all the deep fake technology that they have right now, who knows? Somebody who probably didn't follow that whole thing when he got head surgery and they said that he may have perished, and then magically his sister starts talking on everything. Somebody that doesn't know about that maybe say, "Oh, that's crazy. Of course he is. Of course he's alive." I don't know. If we just got in the last year really, really good deep fake technology that anybody could use, I can imagine 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago when this happened, that the government for sure had this technology. So I just think, like, even because for the longest time, there was no videos of him speaking after that whole event. And the only videos of anybody speaking was his sister, which in their whole culture, and it's not our culture, but their culture does not respect women. And they definitely do not have a woman in charge or even speaking for the cause, even if it is a sister or somebody like that. That's never historically been a thing until Kim Jong-un's sister. Even Dennis Rodman, when that whole thing happened after his brain surgery and when they said he may have perished, even he said, "Well, I can't say anything because I'm a personal friend of the family and blah, blah, blah. But if you see the sister start talking, then you know something's wrong." Sure enough, about a week and a half later, his sister started talking for the family. So it's like, we're assuming that he's still around, which not many people talk about. They go, "Oh, well, there's video of him." Well, guess what? There's also video of President JB saying that he's going to do a funky chicken dance. I mean, there's President Bush saying that he's going to drive drunk down to 7-Eleven and grab a beer. like deep fakes are a thing now, and we don't know. And if a government one did it, then they could tell everybody to say, oh yeah, this is real. I don't know though. I think that they are going to be a puppet of somebody else, and they're going to make it look like NK, and they probably already don't care if NK is wiped off the map. Think about this. They're setting it up so, oh, well, if they attack somebody with nukes, then they're going to get wiped out, and then the regime's gone. Maybe the regime has been gone and been taken over for a couple years now, and what they're going to do is turn North Korea into basically a nuke testing zone. After they wipe them out, they'll test some live missile on them, and then they'll say, oh, the world defeated North Korea, and irradiated all of North Korea. At the same time, they have an excuse to get all this crazy stuff popping off. What do you think, Dex, as far as North Korea and they're basically saying that if they do this, then they're done?
It's like you said, it's an obvious statement. If they launch anything like that and it hits any one of our allies, they're done. It's over with. It's game on. But the target will be Kim, not the people. It'll be all the infrastructure and the plants where they build the nukes and all of the military bases, and it'll just be done. They will not be there if they launch one of those. It's just not going to happen. So, because they don't have enough to necessarily threaten, total, world desolation like somebody like Russia could do. Like, Russia couldn't. It's totally different if you start off a nuke event with them. They have just as many as we do, or more than we do. So it could be, an end of world scenario. So it's a totally different ball game. But when the hermit nation does it with their handful that they may have, which we don't even know if they'll make it across the water, it's kind of silly for them to do that. It's not, their threats can be valid, and their threats, shouldn't be ignored, because they do have the capabilities, but they don't have the numbers yet to warrant, like, if they just did one, like, they're done.
And then, Dex, do you want to talk about the Chinese hackers breached U.S. ambassador to China's email account?
Yeah, hot off the news from last week, we were talking about the Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo, that was reported that her email was hacked by the Chinese hackers. Now they have revealed that the ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, is been targeted, and his emails have been hit. This is obviously, maybe it's an expanding investigation. They're going to find more and more. But the troubling part of this, to me, is that Blinken said he talked to his counterpart in China about it. I think he was speaking with the diplomat Wang Yi. Senior State Department officials had said, but they won't tell us what the outcome was. They can't discuss if there's any response, if we're going to have any response. But the other part of the State Department came out and said, hey, this is just standard espionage. In other words, that's fairly, and I'm quoting here, that is a fairly traditional threat. It is China doing espionage. The NSA director of cybersecurity said Thursday, he said, that's what nation states do. We have to defend against it. We need to push back against it, but that's something that happens. In other words, we're not, we just let it go. We should defend ourselves against it. We should say we don't want that to happen, but it happens. Well, I don't think, that seems a little weak to me, in my opinion. I think it should be, if you hack us, that's an act. And if you're going to keep doing it, there should be an absolute response. And that's just my opinion. For them to sit back and say, yeah, we're not really worried about it. If they hack us, it's just called espionage. We write it off. That just seems kind of weak. Like, we're just giving away the goods, which we been doing that for years with China.
Exactly. We've been, of course, letting it go to other people, of all of the different hacks, and all of our 5th generation fighter plans and everything else. As far as, thank you over in chat, Carol, Tennessee Mountain Girl, you're in my prayers. What happened to Tennessee Mountain Girl? Let's see her. Mox Nix, thank you. The soldier will lose some weight on the NK diet. Mark is here. What is happening? Also says much love and prayers for your health to improve. Tennessee, I didn't see what happened, so I'm. Looks like Nose also said it. Killian. What is going on? It's nice to see you. Said I saw your comment earlier saying, I wish James Munder was here. Yeah, that was very, very sad. And rest in peace, James. And then Baron Saturday. Gosh, it's probably already been, has it been a year since James perished? David Dickin, no Walmart in NK, only Targets. Dex, did you hear that? No Walmart in North Korea, only Targets.
That's funny.
That's pretty good. Eugene Crawford. Hey, thank you guys. Thank you everybody that made it tonight. Very grateful for, looks like we have 2.2 thousand here. Thank you so much for coming. Let's see. Alan G. Hello, Stephen McMahon. We've got the Kegel. We've got Bobby Sue. Amadeus. That soldier will be treated like a celebrity. I think you're talking about the one that went over to North Korea. That's nobody tries to sneak into North Korea. It's always the opposite. Kind of funny though. Before we move on, make sure to go over and check out Energy. Especially right now, because if you have been wanting to get a generator, highly recommend getting a solar generator. They now have the Flex 1500, the modular system that you can expand up to 96 batteries. That again is an awesome, amazing system that can pretty much do anything now that they have the UPS mod. Now there's the Flex Tactical that was designed with the U.S. military. In fact, the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory helped with that. That has built-in heaters for extreme colds. It's basically the top of the top tactical unit you can get. And then also right now, for somebody who just wants a basic unit that does everything and has the new lithium iron phosphate technology and its UPS built in, then this would be the option, the Kodiak X2. I think one of the only downsides is that it can't be expanded beyond 2 units. But that is actually going to be good enough for almost everybody. As far as if you really wanted to go 2 units, that would be perfect for many people that just want a portable generator. These, you could literally hold 2 and bring 2 with you, kind of like lunch boxes, and these things could be extremely powerful. It doubles the output and it doubles the actual battery power when you dual link them. But even just one is extremely powerful tool. Very, 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 very cool unit. And of course, now it is 15% off for the rest of the units that they have. They get batches of lithium. So the very last units will actually go at a really big discount. They are going to keep making them, but again, the big discount is only going to be on the remaining units of this batch. So that's 15% off plus our 5% discount. When you're talking about an item like this that is pricey, you definitely want to go for it when they have those kind of discounts. That is UPS right off the bat. You can dual link it, and it has 6,000 charge cycles because of that lithium iron phosphate technology. Again, this charges, you can get your charge from the sun, or you can charge it extremely fast from the wall. It actually has a built-in inverter in it, so you can actually plug any standard cord, one of those big, thick cords that goes into a back of a PC or something. I literally took mine out of my PC and plugged this in and charged it in about 75 minutes. That's huge. Again, you can also hook it up to solar panels. It's a really, really awesome unit, and you have power when nobody else does. There's no sound to it. Again, you can't hear it from 3 blocks away, and you don't have to pay $5 a gallon in gas. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle to not only get the 15% off, but our extra discount. So again, that's our discount stacking on top of their 15% for the X2. All right. And then Russia says patients infected with deadly bacteria have escaped. This is wild. So again, this is just nuts. It sounds like the plot of an infectious disease thriller on arid plains of Siberia. A dinner party partakes of horse meat that secretly harbors a rare and deadly bacteria. Once guests start showing signs of an infection, they are sent to the hospital, but some escape their sick beds, panicking local officials who send out an alert. That's how allegedly it went down in Tuva, a republic in Russia's southern Siberian region in late June. And the bacteria that made everybody sick is, get this, anthrax. According to TASS, a Russian state news agency said, Russian state media is known for publishing slanted news and propaganda, but it's unclear what authorities would have to gain from airing this story of a bungled public health menace. And there have been independently recorded cases of anthrax in the Russian hinterlands, such as 2016 outbreak in the country's obscure Yamal Peninsula in northern Siberia, where scores of people became sick and a child actually perished, according to an NPR report at the time. It says perhaps most pertinently, researchers have said that anthrax outbreaks like in 2016 will become more common due to rapidly warming temperatures in Siberia driven by the Great Change. Right? All of the ice melts and anthrax pops out. It's literally like, I'm here. I'm anthrax. Scientists theorize that increased temperatures are thawing permafrost and are unlocking all sorts of deadly bacteria and viruses from the icy prisons. We actually talked about this quite a few years ago when they said that there was a newly discovered bacteria that came out of the ice, and it was like 97% death rate. But luckily they said, oh, well, we had it contained right away, and it looks like it was kind of a one-off thing, right? And at that time, they said it was because of the Great Change and the permafrost is melting and all of these prehistoric things that humans or anybody alive on Earth right now has no kind of defense against. So, I mean, like some of this bacteria, they say could have been around, it could have made dinosaurs sick or something, right? Well, now they say that it's melting and this stuff is going on. It says this most recent anthrax incident happened in a town called Blizietekaya, where there is a shepherd's encampment where over 100 unveed animals were held. According to TASS, on June 30th, a local resident was sent to the hospital for anthrax after visiting the settlement, where horse meat was seemingly consumed and 4 other people were also infected. Patients were supposed to stay hospitalized until they no longer showed any signs of infection, but 4 have apparently escaped the hospital. If this isn't a setup for something shady as hell, then I don't know what is. You're saying, and it wasn't just one guy that's like, I don't want to stay here for however many days. It was all 4 and they all left. Like, what are we going to hear that they all took flights to somewhere in the world? If they're shepherds in this small town, then go get them. You would think they go, oh, well, then we went down the street to their shepherd's house and we got them. But no, apparently they've escaped. And what do they mean by escaped? So they had these guys with like super, super bad, deadly bacteria and they didn't have them guarded or send somebody in or send the military or send somebody in to block them? Or did they just not take this that seriously? Or is it not that serious? Dex, it literally sounds like something out of a movie. But that makes me think that this is like some sort of story that's then going to precede something scary.
Yeah, that's the real question. It's not necessarily, did they eat horse meat? Did they get sick? The question is, why are they publishing this? Why is the state-run media of Russia putting this story out, whether it's true or not? And why are they talking about them being escaped? I mean, there's, on some hands, certainly anthrax is extremely scary, but at the same time, it's also treatable. I don't know if it's contagious in the sense that one person can give it to another, but that doesn't mean that the agents, I guess, couldn't transform into other things and get respread. So I don't know exactly how that works, but I don't think it's the same as some other things. And it's also bacteria. It's not viral. So bacteria don't typically morph like we see with the viral type stuff, which does. So every so many weeks, they tend to typically change or morph themselves. So, but the real question, like you said, this just sounds like a setup. It sounds like they're pushing a piece of content out, or some people might even call it ganda, for a reason. Like there's going to be a follow-up on this at some point, because this sounds kind of suspect to me.
Yeah, something doesn't sound right. In fact, what was that? Rolf said, let me try to find that. Said that it has to be grinded up to be weaponized. Said that anthrax has to be grinded up to be weaponized. By the way, thank you so much, John Frederick, for gifting out 5 Marfoogle TV memberships. Thank you so much. Again, thank you, John Frederick, for giving 5 people badges. that is what's cool about it, is that anybody can gift anybody it, so people don't even have to get it themselves. That's one thing I'm glad that they adopted. And then next exit, the great change happened before, ? They didn't have cars and planes then, or did they? No. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody argues about why it's happening, but I think very, very few people actually argue that it is happening. They either argue that it's cyclical or that it's caused by us. The big thing is, if it's caused by us, then there can be an agenda to change things rapidly that might make money for certain people. There's arguments on both sides. But again, the people that say it's happening say, oh, well, there's all this proof. That's the thing. There's proof on both sides. If you look down both sides, and anybody can pay for a study and have their own people do a study. They also, had all these studies around CV that said that they proved these things. Oh, they proved this, they proved that. Well, then a couple years later, we found out all of that was a lie, or those were completely false statements. So it was, or like a big medical company paying for its own study into something and saying, oh, it's totally harmless. And then finding out that the, group that did the study was bought and paid for by the company that had a motivation for it to not be dangerous, right? We've seen that so many times. I think that they're rotating who is making money right now. People have died, new people have taken over, there's new elites, and they're swapping around stuff. But who knows? Either way, the one thing I don't think is argued is like, we're having all this crazy weather, we're having these crazy events, and you could say that that's either man-made or manufactured or this or that, but it's certainly crazy, especially here to have tornadoes where there's never a tornado, and to have 118-degree days and, just crazy, crazy stuff going on. And that's just here in Washington. All over the country, there's having all sorts of weird events. All right. Thank you, by the way. Thank you, guys. And Tennessee Mountain Girl, I hope you do okay. Hope you get better real quick. And then Putin claims that Western Poland is a gift from Stalin. It says Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has described Western Polish territory as, quote, a gift from Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, claiming that it was his actions that caused Poland to receive this area from Germany after World War II. The Western territories of present-day Poland are a gift from Stalin to the Poles. We have our friends in Warsaw forgotten about this. We will remind you, Putin threatened at a meeting with members of the Russian Security Council on July 21st. It says the dictator also instructed the director of the Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, Sergei Norishky, to monitor Poland's possible intention to occupy Western Ukraine. There is no evidence of this being a possibility. It says in Putin's imagination, the Polish-Lithuanian-Ukrainian initiative in the field of security may, quote, occupy Western Ukraine. He did not provide any evidence for this. Do you like how they said they don't? That's how they put it. He didn't provide any evidence. And I'm not siding on Vlad's side here, but how they write things. And this is again a syndicated article that got covered by 50 other medias. What I think that all people should strive for is like they should hold these news companies to try to actually give us the facts and the truth, not just some opinion with a bunch of descriptions of somebody. You notice they throw in there, they say that they don't just say Vlad, they say the dictator Vlad. They're basically saying that that's their opinion, right? I'm sure somebody in Russia would say differently, right? It says the dictator also instructed, did all that. It says in Putin's imagination, the Polish-Lithuanian-Ukrainian initiative in the field of security may occupy Western Ukraine. If you catch that part, he's essentially saying that, again, they're saying in his imagination, they're putting in there that somehow he wants all of this back, and it looks like he's threatening. He threatened Poland with the loss of its independence as a result of, quote, such aggressive politics. Putin also claimed that Poland owes its independence to the Soviet Union. On May 21st, Russian State Duma Speaker Volodin blamed Poland for, quote, betraying historical memory and claimed it owes over $750 billion for Moscow for its liberation from Nazi Germany and rebuilding of the country. For centuries, Russia has been great at turning things on their heads to pull wool over our eyes, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said, commenting on Volodyn's absurd claims. So it's again something that they're reminding them, and who knows, if you take this how he's saying it, some are saying like he's threatening, like we're going to take it back. I think that the Western narrative is that the reason we're there is because if we're not there and if we're not, gifting all of this stuff and paying for Ukraine to stay in this, that is an issue of global security, because after he takes Ukraine, he's then going to take the rest of NATO and he's going to try to take the Baltic states back, and it will become into a global issue. At least that's what Western media is saying. So again, they're pointing that out. And then everything is burning. Dex, do you want to talk about the cluster bombs raining down on Russian troops in UKR?
So a couple things here. Apparently, Kirby has confirmed, quote from John Kirby, "We've gotten some initial feedback from the UKR, and they're using them quite effectively." The NSC spokesman John Kirby said at a White House briefing. He also said they're using them appropriately, and they're actually having an impact on Russia's defense formation and Russia's defensive maneuvering. Now, they also found, they're claiming that now these are all coming pro-UKR, pro-UKR media platform posted on Twitter that at the moment, the armed forces of UKR are demolishing let me start over. Russian troops are saying this according to this tweet. At the moment, armed forces of UKR are demolishing our positions in Bakhmut direction with these cluster munitions, one of the messages said. Another one said the counter battery fight does not work. Everything is burning all around. The men are holding on, waiting for aviation. In other words, waiting for air support. The general staff has not yet handed over cluster munitions and rockets with cluster munitions for our guys to answer. So basically, they're trying to paint this picture that, hey, they're using them. The U.S., John Kirby has confirmed that they're using them. And they're also trying to paint a picture that those that are being hit with them are making these claims that it's obviously very effective, and that those that are making the claims in Russia don't have the same cluster munitions to use in retaliation. So it's very one-sided at the moment. That's the message we're getting now. Of course, all of this, take it with a huge grain of salt. Even Kirby making that statement, but he is, he is a NSC spokesperson. He is, at the White House. So that can have a little less salt, or at least we know that's coming from an official. So it's an official position, where some of this other stuff is just coming from alleged tweets that they say are coming from people on the other side of the line. But very interesting, I don't say turn of events, but at least, what we expected to see when those munitions went over there, it would start to change something. And we know that Putin has said, hey, this is really bad. If you guys are going to use it, we're going to send it right back at you. And that looks like at least the first part has happened. We're not only do we deliver them, but now they're using them.
Well, and so covering this stuff every day, it especially when you cover a broad range of stuff, you're going to see propaganda on both sides. I think that any news analyst should be pointing out when there is propaganda, even if it's propaganda that you may agree with, that you may be on the side of that propaganda. Like, you should call it out. Like, so I live in the U.S. I support us here in the U.S. I support the people here in the U.S. But the government currently, and by the way, it's so crazy right now because they're accusing anybody that basically questions the U.S. government of being something, scary, about being basically a version of Al Qaeda or something, right? And that's what scares people to speak out. But I guess I'm not afraid to say when I see things that I feel like there's BS on both sides. And that doesn't mean, and people automatically go, oh, well, and that supports Putin or something, or you're carrying Putin's water. I think there's a lot of BS on both sides. And I think that if you call it out on both sides, you can get closer to the truth. Right now, there is obviously a lot of lying going on. If you know what's been going on with UKR even leading up to this, then you know something absolutely shady is going on. NATO and all of these groups, essentially, I come from a spot of not trusting any of these countries, because after CV, you could see that they all got on the same page. I think more people should be like that. I think we should all be trying to push each other up instead of push each other down. And right now, the only people that are like getting together and pushing each other up on a pedestal are the governments of the world. Meanwhile, the people are more divided than they've ever been. And it doesn't matter what niche you're in, no matter what you believe, there's groups arguing with themselves about this kind of stuff. I know I'm not right on 60, 80, 90% of this stuff because none of us are. There's no way. If any YouTuber or any newscaster says that if they pretend they know everything, then they're probably being tricked at some point. Like none of us know everything. What we can do, though, and this is the point I really want to drive home, is that we can prepare for the unexpected. That's what we should be doing. I think what's crazy is it's not unexpected, but people are pushing against it and making it unexpected. We are going to have World War III. I believe that in my heart. I'm not trying to scare people. I also tell people it's not going to be something like the end of the world. But I do believe it is happening. And I need to, it feels like I have to tell people that, because it is literally to the point where I would feel like crap when it all goes down and I didn't say that, or if I was too afraid to say that, which I was afraid to say that. Even after I talked to somebody who literally, if I was able to bring this person on the show and have them tell you what they told me, it would immediately be like everybody go, oh my gosh, I need to go out and get stuff now. It's like those kind of things happen when you're in our spot. Everybody comes to, and talks to you. Meanwhile, not everybody has all of these people reaching out and showing this stuff. And it's like, it's scary when you start seeing from top down all of these things come together and all of these people telling you the same exact thing, and not telling you the same exact thing because they all watched a YouTube video saying, here's the inside info. It's like when you have multiple people in high-ranking positions saying, we think this is going to happen. There was at least a year before I said World War III. I was so afraid of being called a fearmonger, all this. I don't care anymore. This is my belief. That's why I also say if somebody else is saying something they say, oh, they're just scaring people for this or that. Maybe they are, but maybe they believe that. I believe that it's not doom and gloom because I believe it is the truth of the situation. I believe it is happening right now. And as long as if that person believes it, then I don't think that they're doing anything wrong by saying what they believe. But people are pushing back against this, and they have been every single day since I've done this show. People push back. They say all these things. I hope, and it sucks because when it does happen, it's not I don't care if it's not going to matter if they come back and go, oh, you were right, and I was such a jerk about it. Because I don't think the internet's going to be on. And I don't think that people take this seriously enough. Or if they do take it seriously, people call them crazy or they think they're nuts. I don't think it's nuts to be preparing for a really bad event to happen, because I think it is happening right now. It is not just a huge, scare tactic by the media. That's happening too. Now everybody's so paranoid, like that movie that just came out. All any 3-letter agency has to do to make somebody doubt something is go to the forums or something and put out one theory about it, and then it spreads like wildfire. Because our community is so paranoid about everybody, all you have to do is spread one rumor, and then boom, it's like totally discredited. Now I'm seeing people are basically giving that movie crap that talks about the kids and all of that. All they have to do is start one little rumor, and then everybody's like, oh, that's a psyop. Everything is a psyop to basically, if you take 10 people 5 people are going to think every single subject is a psyop, and the other 5 are going to think it's real. I don't think there's anything negative about talking about basically getting attention to that subject. And if that was a psyop, then that's a really, I guess, a psyop that helps positively stop that from happening and brings more attention to something that's a taboo and that nobody talks about. Talking about the sound and of freedom, which is now being hit and deleted and marked on all the platforms. But my point is all of these articles, there's a lot of propaganda in here, especially right now. But I think that people really need to pay attention because it seems like it is absolutely getting closer. And that might be the appearance of it. But I would say prepare just the same for the unlikely. Dex, do you want to talk about Russia's breaks promise to raise minimum draft age above 18?
Certainly. So actually, Putin himself had proposed a bill originally supporting a raise from the 18 to 27 age bracket for conscription and moving it to 21 to 30. So they would still have the same number of years, but just not starting at 18 years of age. They have now come out and said that bill was amended and that they're not going to do it. It's only going to raise the upper age to 30, but keep the lower age at 18. So they're basically adding 3 more years to the conscription range. And they've said that they've decided to keep the lower draft age limit at 18 years because a lot of young men want to serve at 18. That's what Kartapolov, which is the Russian Defense Committee chair, had to say about this. So it's interesting. On one hand, they're expanding the age group. So everybody that was there that was, say, 28, 29, or 30, now they all of a sudden can be conscripted, where before this bill was signed, they couldn't. And then, of course, they were expecting to eliminate 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, but now those folks are staying in the target for the conscription. So take with that what you want. Those are just facts that are coming out from the laws that they had passed there.
That sounds like something that our government would do. Like, well, let's raise it to 21. We actually expanded it to 48. Like add another 15 years. Well, they're only adding 3 years, but who knows? They could conscript anybody they want if they really want to. Before we move on, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. EMP Shield can protect your cars, your trucks, your boats, and your motorcycles against an EMP strike and a CME or a natural event. If we have a Carrington level event hit us from the sun, this can basically ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your cars, trucks, motorcycles, ATVs, whatever you put it on, including your house, ham radios, generators, before it's able to fry it. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You get $50 off per device when you use our code, and that stacks on top of any of their sales. Again, the Memorial sale, the 4th of July sale, all of those ended up stacking on top of our $50 off. So make sure to always go check that out for the best deals, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. It helps support us as an independent channel. We're on our own, and again, we are literally, if it wasn't for the Foogle fam, we would be in a bad place because we cover controversial topics that are constantly hit, constantly. We have to basically step on eggshells the entire time. And we don't have a multi-channel network, so that doesn't help either. All right, and then let's see here. Hockey Bros 100, thank you for subscribing. Thank you, Helena Aldridge. Thank you for subscribing as well. And thank you, Hopkinson. Thank you, Stephanie Cook. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. Kingdoms of Verdun, Diane Moses. Sharon Davis, thank you for the super chat yesterday. Kenny Crowder, thank you. And Mystery School, Carol, Mimi Carstel, Wages World, LAPD SWAT, NJM, and of course, Mark Ramos and Samuel Turner. Thank you guys. All right, and then let's see here. And Next Exit. Thank you. And we have pro-Russian blogger who called Putin a, quote, lowlife arrested in Moscow. A prominent Russian pro-war blogger who criticized President Vladimir Putin and his military mishaps in Ukraine was arrested on Friday in a move that suggested Kremlin's patience with dissent has grown thinner in the wake of Wagner mercenary rebellion last month. Igor Girkin, a former KGB officer who helped Russia seize Crimea and was convicted of mass murder for his role in the downing of the Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 in eastern Ukraine, was taken from his home in Moscow by security agents on Friday and charged with extremist activity, according to state media and a post on his Telegram account attributed to his wife. So he was actually, that's funny, he basically was using his wife's account, supposedly, and doing extremist activity. It says Girkin, who also goes by the nom d'Igor Stelkov, is among the best known of Russia's Mill bloggers, a group of war correspondents who support the invasion but have grown increasingly critical of the military's faltering operations in UKR. Girkin had recent months taken his criticisms to another level, lambasting the Russian state and even Putin himself. You know, what's crazy is I see the same stuff here and same stuff everywhere where basically you criticize or question the government, something magically happens to you. And then they literally became missiles. They literally become missiles. Fiery explosion near Phoenix Airport damages 30 cars. A propane business near the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport went up in flames Thursday evening, resulting in a fiery explosion that damaged at least 30 cars and caused propane tanks to fly through the air. It says that approximately 5 p.m., fires crews were dispatched to Bill's propane service. And it literally made me think of like King of the Hill. Bill's propane service near the airport after Arizona family reported seeing a fire after they arrived. Firefighters found the business engulfed in massive flames while propane tanks flew through the air. I think they actually have, there's an audio clip from the gentleman who owns the propane shop. I think it's here. I'm just giving them what's up, man? The missiles, man, just all over the place. And they just flew right down there. The little girl was riding it like dragging in an everlasting life. It was crazy. Actual clip of the owner, by the way. That was
hard to find. That was good though.
Yeah. It's buried on the dark web. They're hiding it. It's
a Marfoogle News exclusive.
Yep. Even though I'm right on the fence, right there, Biden, F Biden, maybe we're going to go, no. Bud Light, maybe we go. And then Rand Paul's Kentucky office damaged in fire and roof collapses. Wasn't it? Yeah. It was, and by the way, not only one day after news broke that Rand Paul has referred Dr. Anthony Fauci to the DOJ for prosecution, the Bowling Green, Kentucky office of the Republican Senator was damaged in a fire. According to the Bowling Green Daily News, the early Friday morning fire severely damaged a commercial building on State Street, which Paul's local office is located. Okay, this sounds shady as hell. Now, was it? No, I might be confusing Rand and Ron. Was it Ron Paul or Rand Paul that also was part of this bill that basically, was he the one
Rand.
who did, was it Ron?
No, Rand. Ron's out. Ron's retired.
Okay, so then that means it was also Rand Paul that made the amendment to clarify that the NATO treaty does not supersede our Constitution, and they voted it down?
Correct.
That was also yesterday or the day before. So, and by the way, if you did not know about that, there was a bill that he did, and he wrote it up, and it was like 2 sentences. And essentially he said this should be the easiest thing. And actually, I think it's because an article actually wrote Rand Paul, and it did R-O-N Paul. And I'm like thinking, Ron Paul, that doesn't make sense. But Rand Paul, same thing here. He not only referred Fauci to the DOJ prosecution, he also wrote this bill, and it should have been a no-brainer, basically saying that the NATO treaty does not supersede the Constitution. that the Congress would have to declare that the Congress declares war, all of that, and that basically saying that, it was just clarifying that there is no part of this NATO treaty that supersedes our own constitution. Because in the NATO treaty, it doesn't actually say anything about we don't have to go to war, but we are expected to go and protect our NATO allies and this and that. But that could be in many different ways. That says something. That really, really says something when they voted it down 83 to 16. So only 16 of the voters said that should be a thing. And it was a simple clarification. So I think that's even shadier than anything else, and people should pay attention. Basically, they're setting it up. So, and they also, same time, they set it up so nobody could get out of the NATO treaties, right? Dex, wasn't that something too? They made it so
they were making it so a president could not, because if you remember, T-Man before had said, hey, if they don't pay the bill, we'll leave. There will be no NATO because we're the ones footing the bill. So that was his position, and they're afraid that if he comes back into power, if he gets in the next time around, that he may still do that same thing. He may say, hey, if you NATO countries don't pay your fair share, I'm going to pull the plug. Because, by the way, they started to, but they still haven't. They haven't actually, they paid more, but they didn't pay. At this point, they're still not paying their fair share according to what they should be paying. The U.S. foots the bill. Look at how much money we send over to UKR. It's not all coming from the rest of NATO. So, yeah, they put that in place because they were afraid that if he or any other president got in, could turn it off.
Yeah, so not only are they making it harder for anybody to pull out of the NATO treaty, they will not clarify that the NATO treaty is not superseded by the Constitution. So essentially, instead of a NATO treaty deciding if we go to war, it would be our Constitution and our Congress that decide if we go to war. They're basically leaving the door open for things to basically force us to go into a war instead of clarifying that, hey, basically our rights and our Constitution should be number one over any other country, but they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't clarify that. And that's scary to me. At the same time, they pass things to make it difficult for any president to get out of NATO. And people really don't see that we're going into World War III. They are setting it up so we have to go to World War III. I think we should call World War III something else because people are afraid of World War III. This is the next big conflict. This is it's a global conflict, and we're heading into it. And they're making it impossible. The NATO conflict, because it's coming. CMAX says, even if we are not all in the main fight, we will be affected by supply lines. I didn't serve the army for my citizens to be afraid. Please prepare now. Thank you, CMAC, and thank you for your service. Again, if the majority of people ended up, not having 3 days of food in their fridge, I think we would do a lot better. Then people wouldn't be desperate. People wouldn't be robbing each other. If people took had some foresight and looked ahead and tried to prepare. Pam B, as always, thank you. Hey, thank you, Pam B. And then Sharon Davis says, I've been with you from the start. I'm 85 and just found password. What? That's hilarious. Okay, and then next exit again. Thank you, Door Dashing, Kingdoms of Verdun, Diane Moses. Let's see here, Linda Sullivan. Thank you, and thank you. Thank you over on DLive, guys. I appreciate everybody that has already popped in there. We have, of course, Beer Juice, Sally Rains, Texas Rob 49. Thank you for gifting out badges to Renegade PD, Durango X Nubaru. We have a lot of Texas Rob. Thank you, guys. Thank you for gifting out badges to everybody over there. And then Yobi, Kimbria, as always. I don't think you've missed a day. And then Chance, thank you for modding. You guys make sure to go check out Chance over on marfooglenews.com/friends. Do you think that this is shady? Press 1 for yes in the chat. Press 2 for no. I will actually put the chat up on screen. Is this shady? Is this a message? Press 1, 2 for no, or 3, don't know. Is this shady that at the days after he did both things that were trying to affect change and going after Dr. F, he all of a sudden has a fire at his office? 1 for yes, it's shady, 2 for no, and 3, I don't know. Lisa from Texas made it clear. I think that Lisa from Texas said, 1. Sarah Goldie, 1. Nickelwise, 1. Rebecca Snavely, 1. Yes, it's a very clear message. ericsplace.com. Rolf K, 1. Karen Dixon, 1. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I feel like I'm running a chainsaw here. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Pretty much that's all it is. Yeah. We should send it to a panel and get feedback, says the Jackal, and get World War III names. Shady Grady, yeah. 1 clear and loud. Okay, I don't see. And I agree. I hope people like stick out, and then if it's some people will just like disagree to disagree. I'm actually surprised. I've never seen that many ones. Danish Girl, what was the question? So Rand Paul, a day after he puts Dr. F over for prosecution by the DOJ, all of a sudden has a fire in his office. And it's like a big fire too. Right after he also tried to amend the NATO treaty and basically say that the Constitution was more important. So 2 major things in the last 2 days. And then all of a sudden, Rand Paul has a fire in his office. 1 for shady, 2 for not shady, and 3 for I don't know. But yeah, if you didn't see on screen, every single person said 1. And I like, not even the typical rebel that's like, I'm going to say 2 just to say 2, said 2. So kind of freaky. And let's see here. Before we move on, if you are one of those people with 3 days of food, easy way to get, affordable way to get a bunch of food. Right now, there is the lowest kind of entry point with a discount. Now you can get a week of food, again, for $30 off. Marfooglenews.com/prep. They also have month packages. They have 3-month packages. You can pretty much go as far out as you want. In fact, they are always one of the most affordable ways to get bulk food that is freeze dried and that will last 25 years. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Not only are you getting a discount on this, but you're helping us and reinforcing the growth of our channel. It helps us support our families. So thank you, and I appreciate it. At the same time, you're getting a huge discount, and you are getting food that can serve you well during any kind of disaster, whether it be a natural disaster or whether it be SHTF. Marfooglenews.com/prep. And it's too hot for EVs to work right. Dex, as far as I thought about this when I just saw this thing, this old guy who was interviewed on the news yesterday or the day before. They were all these tourists were going to the spot and taking a picture next to this big thermometer that said 134 degrees on it. And they're all like laughing. One of the Asian guys actually touches the metal of the thermometer and almost burns himself because it's so hot. One of the older guys, I guess he was in his 70s or 80s, he ended up dying like there that day, right after he was interviewed by the news. And I'm thinking, what are these dummies doing out in 135 degree temperatures? And I was thinking, what cell phones and what, devices even going out into heat like that. I've had my cell phone just sitting in the car for a couple minutes, give me an alert saying like, your phone's about to blow up. I can't imagine being on top of and sitting on top of an entire EV like a Tesla, where the entire bottom of the car is one giant lithium battery that could turn into an explosive. Dex.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have safety things, but that's scary.
And it's not that extreme here, but what is happening, and if you recall, we've talked about this like during cold weather, they had some cold issues. Now let's there's one part of this that is just sort of obvious. Let's say there is a massive heat wave going or a massive cold wave going. What is happening to your power grid at that time? It's being taxed out. And we've seen in the past them come out and say, hey, we need to conserve power. So aside from doing a rolling blackout, could you guys maybe not charge your cars? So in that case, it's kind of like, okay, well, there's one negative hit. But what they've actually found is that 31% drop a 30% loss up to a 30% reduction in distance that it can actually perform when the temperatures are high. Now, the real question is what is going on? Is it because of the battery tech or is it something else? So from the University of Michigan battery lab, they said, hey, yeah, when you're above 104 degrees Fahrenheit, you start to have a breakdown of the passive emission layer on the anode, and that will break down will cause some consumption of the liquid electrolyte, which will shorten the lifetime of your battery. But it doesn't say it's actually shortening the distance at which you can go. So what others are speculating, and by the way, they got all this because they were looking at data. They looked at some data across a bunch of the different vehicles and saw that in these high temperature areas, they were losing distance. They couldn't go the distance. So the other assumption is that because of the electric system, it's now when you're sitting in 100-degree temperatures like they were in Phoenix, 110 degrees, or like you said in Death Valley, 130 plus degrees, that the electricity needed, the demand off of that battery just to keep the occupants cool in the car is far higher than typical usage. So even that alone, the fans running, the cooling system that has to run for not only the batteries but the occupants, all of that is just consuming a ton of the power, and that causes the actual life, not the lifespan, but the distance in which you can go to diminish significantly. So imagine you got enough to get to work and back every day, and you think you're doing the right thing driving your EV, but now all of a sudden you've lost 30% of your distance, and maybe you can't actually make it to work, or you make it there on, I wouldn't say fumes, but maybe on sparks. You're just squeezing in, right? That's kind of scary. And that's what they're seeing with these 100+ degree weather in certain areas. So it's one more thing for us to think about. You know, the EV is not necessarily the holy grail. It's meant to be. I'm sure I'm not, one to say that this can't be solved, fixed, and it will go away eventually. I'm not totally pro on the battery side of vehicles. I think there's a lot of other sides of it that are kind of scary to me. But on a combustion engine, that engine just keeps running, and it cranks that, that belt, which spins that compressor and keeps that air conditioning running. Maybe a little less on that miles per gallon, but nowhere near as significant as you're seeing with the electric system. So very interesting study they did.
What I wonder is that they're making everybody go to electric. They're forcing the electric market. They're saying that all cars are going to be like this sometime. And they're also saying that our planet is heating up. So the hotter the planet gets, and we're basically shifting to a technology that doesn't work great in hot weather. Don't know. Which, speaking of which, they're not worried about that, though, because they're going to go to another planet. But few Americans think NASA's top priority should be sending humans to the moon or Mars. What's crazy is, like, back in the day, everybody was like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah, man in space. But they've told America and the rest of the world that we already went to the moon, right? But many people don't understand kind of why we're going now. Is there money to be made? I mean, there, of course, just yesterday we covered in the home stretch to finding that asteroid and seeing if there's, quadrillions of dollars worth of materials on it. So they're definitely saying that they're doing some stuff in space for money, and that they may be able to get quadrillions of dollars worth of materials out of space. But why in the heck are we going to the moon? Well, Elon Musk says that we need to go to Mars to save civilization, because the best way to save civilization is to become a multiplanetary species. Now, everybody down here is like, oh, who really cares? We're fine down here. But that's why it makes me think that if they really are trying to get to Mars, and everything is true that they're saying, and they're actually trying to go somewhere, then what the heck is happening? Like, what do they know that we don't? Why are they trying to go to the moon and Mars? Essentially, many people just say, I don't care, and this shouldn't be a priority. It says a majority of Americans think it is essential that the U.S. remain a global leader in space, but the private markets won't ensure enough progress on their own, according to new polling data. Pew asked over 10,000 American adults about their attitudes towards commercial space, NASA, the global space race, and the outlook on space over the next 50 years. The poll comes at a time of major transformation in the space industry. Rocket launches are now commonplace. Space tourism is getting on its feet, and NASA's Artemis program is advancing towards its second mission. It says notably few Americans, just 12%, said sending astronauts to the moon or Mars should be among NASA's top priorities. Instead, 60% said one of the top priorities should be asteroid monitoring. And 5 in 10 said NASA should focus on monitoring the climate. And it said this stands in sharp contrast to how Congress intends to allocate the space agency's funding for the next fiscal year. So even this next year, they're putting a lot of money into getting to the moon. Why? It's not like we're in a space race to go to the moon, right? Unless it is really the first time we're going, right? And I'm not saying it is, but again, there's a lot of questions there why we haven't gone since literally every computer that has been made since the 80s has been stronger than the birthday card of a computer that got us to the moon before. It just doesn't make sense. And now, all of a sudden, they're trying to do so. And what's crazy is 60% said the top priority should be asteroid monitoring. So obviously, asteroids hitting Earth is actually a lot bigger on people's minds than most people want to admit. In fact, I think more people are worried about asteroids than they are about World War III. It's kind of interesting to think about. Dex, isn't that a trip? 60% said one of the top priorities should be asteroid monitoring. But that's what they're doing. That's what Starlink is. I'm telling you. 1 in 4 of the Starlinks is a hypersonic speed detector. They told us that.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's also interesting, though, that they want to say that 50% of us want them to focus on the change. So you notice how the change always creeps its way into everything. And so that is also telling. This is a Pew Research study. So for those of you that, consider them and take that into any type of consideration that you may or may not apply to this, what could come from this research, and if it was, in any way, shape, or form guided into some answers that they were looking for. Now, the question is, does anything happen here? Is it just a survey? If all of a sudden we start to see politicians using this and running with it and saying, well, we need to change that budget, or we need to tell NASA to stop the moon mission and instead start monitoring, the polar ice or something like that. That would be telling to see that massive shift.
Then after all the BS, then all of a sudden we're not going to the moon, right? Then everybody that their theory is that it was all BS, they would be, they're even going to have a better argument. They're going to be like, see, I told you they weren't actually going to go, because last second they go, oh, well, nobody wants it, so we're going to stop. Because I even said back 2 or 3 years ago, I said, we'll see, this argument will finally be handled when it gets to the point when regular people are going up, like they say, because they said within a few years, everybody's going to be going up, and that 1 million people are going to be on Mars by 2030 or whatever. It's like, watch, something's going to happen. They're going to say, oh, this is more important. And then it won't happen. That will cement an argument for some. It's like, it's crazy that the very bottom of this say, search for life and planets that could support life. Nobody cares. Send human astronauts to the moon. Nobody cares. Send human astronauts to explore Mars. Nobody cares. But would this be flipped? If there was information out there, secret information about something that's going to happen on Earth, do you think that this would flip overnight? I bet it would. If the people at the very top knew that an asteroid was going to destroy life in 2040 or something, I bet you this would flip instantly. It would just go. Do you think? I do. I think my personal opinion is I think that they know about some sort of calamity that's going to happen, and that's why all of the richest people in the world, the most connected people in the world, their top priorities, if you look at what their priorities are, what they're spending their 70, 80, 90 years of life doing, almost all of the richest people in the world are investing in rockets, getting off planet, and bunkers. They're all building bunkers. Just look at all of the richest people in the world. They're all building these fantastic bunkers under all of their properties, including Bill Gates. If you think there's somebody that's more connected than him, I don't know. I mean, all of them are building bunkers. For what? And listen to their words. Listen to what they're saying. They think something's going to go down. And then people look at us like we're crazy for saying something's going to go down. But I guarantee you, one of those guys says, if something's happening, everybody's going to flip out overnight. Instead, you should have a constant kind of, you should, not flip out. You should be prepared and slowly get prepared over years. And then when something does bad happen, you're ready for it. Let's see here. Huru TV says, yes, I agree. We're all Daffy Duck to be on repair. Let's see here. Shield Maiden for Christ. Hey, nice to see you. Liz Potter, we fly soon. I'm going to the Haspazo. Moonbase is imperative for further exploration, including NASA's RSET. STR 2711. They also say, yeah, I know. Judith Bailey, Marf, we are poor people. They won't let us go. Of course they won't. And still, anybody that does believe in certain things, guarantee you the argument's still not going to be settled because none of the people that, everybody's not going to be able to go. They're still going to be able to say, oh, well, those people are elites. Like, we can't believe them because they're elites. So the argument will not be settled, what shape we are or if space exists or all of these things, because unless we literally have regular trips, like if you could just hop on a bus and go to space, I don't think it's going to happen. Dex, go ahead.
For every one elite that goes to space, they should be forced to take a common person, or not just one, maybe two, right? If you can afford to go for one, you should take two other people that can't afford to go up there, so that we can distribute the opportunity to see this potential greatness that is above us that we're just told what it is.
No, for every elite that goes to space, they need to bring a flat, if you get what I'm saying. So then we can slowly get this argument settled. Okay. Let's see here. How useless knowledge says, how would you know you're actually on Mars? I guess the trip would be kind of telling if it has windows, but if it doesn't have windows, then you could be in like Arizona or something. No space equity tourism. Elysium, Susie, come out. That's what we were talking about yesterday. Aaliyah says, no, thank you. I would not want to be on the first couple trips, that's for sure, especially with companies like Titan subs out there. I'm sure once this gets going, there's going to be Titan sub companies that are getting into space travel, and they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, there's a top of the line. I mean, this is Logitech right here. Are you going to fly? Are you going to fly to space with anything else? I mean, mid flight, he's going to do up, down, down, left, right, and then you die. No, thanks. I'm good. All right. Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got lots of crazy stuff here.
Never mind the creaky composites, right? Popping sounds and all that. Don't worry about that. We don't need steel.
That's
all right.
normal.
Hey, lots going on. Head over to marfuglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you to this webpage where everything we just talked about is. If you're looking for the sources, it's there. You're going to find this yellow bar. It says overflow. This is where the rest of the story is. So to kick things off, there was a kidnapped teen that was apparently rescued by a Good Samaritan in California. They were from Texas. It was a 13-year-old girl who had been repeatedly taken advantage of over time, and they had held up a sign that said, help me, and somebody took action. So kudos to that person. I hope the story's true, and unfortunate for the person, that the young girl, but now that she's saved, that's a great outcome. There's some interesting polls going on. I don't trust polls at all, but there's a poll showing that T-Man's gonna losing big time again to JB. I don't know. You guys can go check it out if you think it's legit or not. We do have some of the other stuff going on in the political spectrum. So that's all covered there, including Pence had to literally scramble to try to make it in time to get signed up for the debate. Some other stuff going on with T-Man and settling of another lawsuit. DeSantis going after Bud Light. Lots of things happening in that political spectrum. Interesting one though about the FBI wrongly searching U.S. senators and state senators in a Section 702 spy data. It sounds a little geeky, but basically they were illegally searching, which they've done before. We've heard all about the great things our government can do with that data. But they were looking for the last names of a specific senator and shouldn't have been doing that. So wonder what else they do that they shouldn't be doing. If you want to know what the most beautiful face should look like, according to AI, you can go take a look. It's interesting. I'll leave it at that. You can find it on our website. Lots of other things like some additional surveys about people's beliefs in religion. We've talked about that numerous times. There's yet another one out that talks about that. Of course, we got some updates on the heat. Steven Crowder is in the news again, unfortunately for him. It's not looking really pretty. And then we got some other interesting things going on with the violence and stuff that's been happening. But specifically, like, look at what Walgreens is doing. They're like literally putting anti-theft measures on all their stores. They're getting hit numerous times. I think I heard them putting chains on refrigerators or freezers. Those doors now. It's getting really ridiculous what some of these stores are having to do in some of the towns just to stay open. And it's no surprise, as we talked about, the retailers that have all closed over on Marfoogle News. So if you want to go check out that short or that specific video around all the retailers that have closed over the last couple of years for various reasons, one of them being crime in some of the major cities that just don't make sense for them to stay open. That's all there. So lots happening. It's on our website. It's marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or hit that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
And just go to the news tab at the top. We're also going to be doing one for restaurants. And again, we have a whole list of stuff that we are going to be putting out as far as shorter content that covers a lot of very interesting subjects. And breaking news when it happens, when things get really crazy, that would be the channel to subscribe to. This channel too is like there's something burned in on this one. It's crazy. Thank you for the 199,000 subscribers here. If you can, share us out to a friend and family member. It's a lot harder. They go through the list of everybody old. They remove subscribers as fast as we can get them. So basically the goal is to gain more than what is taken every month. So thank you for helping us. As you can see, we see new people all the time. That's the thing. There's new people that have just joined us, yet the number doesn't go up. Do you guys remember when the Tube took away the exact subscriber count right before a lot of people got taken down? It was crazy. But that's why it only shows you in increments of 1,000. We see it on the back end. It goes, but it just doesn't. And there's probably 10,000 new people, but they removed 10,000 old people too. And then people, they still watch the show. Make sure you're subscribed. Even if you're a regular watcher, hit the subscription button, hit the all notifications bell. That helps because we've even talked to somebody about 1.5 years ago. They said, if you click that, on their end, they can get in trouble if they unclick that. So make sure to go and click that. It will make sure that you get all of our notifications. And if they don't, then they're not doing something right. All right. And then thank you, everybody. Make sure to share us out with a friend or family member. I appreciate all of you. Let's see here. Thank you, everybody over on DLive. Thank you to our mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for all of our wonderful mods. Thank you, Texas Rob 49. Thank you. Texas Rob, you are the top supporter over on DLive. Thank you. Says, can I just shout out that beer juice is friggin' awesome? Hey, of course. Thank you for the Ninja Guinea over on DLive. And of course, thank you, Hopkinson. Thank you, C-Mac. Thank you, Pam B. Thank you, Liz Potter. Thank you. You are, looks like the top supporter over on YouTube. Says, Jesus is the only way to Father. John 14:6 KJV, King James Version. Thank you, Liz, and thank you for supporting Independent. K Rec says, Fred Stallion, it depends on you and yours. Needs like Adam and Dex say every night. What is the choice of great products also in bibliography? That's awesome. Well, thank you, K-Rec. And K-Rec, thank you for back-to-back super chats. Appreciate that. C-Mac, Bambi, Sharon Davis, Next Exit, Hopkinson, Stephanie Cook, Kingdoms of Erden, and Diane Moses. Thank you, guys. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. Dex, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It's a shoutro.
I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie. This ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie. This ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie. This ain't no hero. Hey.
With the wheel on the wheel, I said to everybody, go Kelly Ripper. Alina Aldridge, my hockey bros. Everybody hot mess in the Miss Low. Hey, a big hero. A Mark Ramos. Thank you for being here. We love you. Hey, with the Brian Barbie, Stephanie Cook and the Hippo Bobby. Hippo character, employed. Friend if I'm presenting the word no boy. Hey, I with the bucket of rocks, RZ 500 and the wise. Hey, a Dr. and Storm, Rachel Queen, and let's take over. Hey, I with the Lady L, Rhetoric, Man, and Doomsday Well. A simulation going away, and everybody now they go communicating. And this is a banger. Save this one and go compete. Hey, with the Rachel Queen, I hear water and I miss a zero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie. This ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie. This ain't no hero. Scott from OZ, I'm my OP. I'm on no back and then a KDO, a GKD cleans a lot. L-O-O-W. I say wait on the way on me. Oh, I should have on no back. I said a phone, I better on the better on no back. I said a phone, on the phone, back. I said boom. I said, hey, I went to Stephanie Cook. I got the Tigers NZ and the Mr. What? I got the home now, but on the ball in the goal. Sick of FYA and the Beast Award. Oh, I got the Wayne away. I Jay my lucky, bring it on the butler me. I said the and the what of me. I said the won't now bag, you can. I said the Zenware, I said the Zenware AC, a Trinity, but a blue pill I see a reachers, a righteous dog, I say the O2G and the wait no more. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, with the last warning, have fun. Gunny, aka on the AC1. I said it won't back down, and now we won this war, and it's a revolution. Oh, hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Packing like the Action Jackson, do it like a down now. Everybody acting like they do now. It's a reaction that we need to have. It's a revelation. Hey, I'm stationed right down at the house. I got downtown and it's all closed down cause they got boarded up at the CEV. A COVID closed it all down for me. Hey, I
think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, with the blues of that, the bark and the way way on the deer, on the beat, on the ooh I got Steve on a Stephanie Munoz. Everybody knows and we do hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face looking like a Neo. Black suit, black tie, this ain't no hero. Hey, I think I see patient zero. I look a lot like he works at the bureau. Face look